We are live. Welcome everyone to Live with Renee. I am so excited today. Today we are going to talk about, it's called Her Story, the Power Pivot, and we're going to talk about Kamala Harris's rise to the White House, the shoulders on which she stands, and the impact that she's going to have for future generations to come. And today I have with me, I have Farrah. Goes by Denise. She is our history buff and storyteller extraordinaire. I have Evelyn Sample-Oates. She is our former North Atlantic Regional Director for Alpha Kappa Alpha, as well as our former international director. I have Ron Jones. He is a assistant principal for the Pittsburgh School District. I have Jennifer Augustine. She is a senior leader in the federal government at DOD. And I have Dr. Roselyn Aker-black, our resident psychologist. So most of you have probably seen the people on my screen before, maybe except for Jennifer, but we all kind of run in the same circle. So welcome. I'm so happy that you guys said yes. I'm so excited about tonight. And I want to first start off by apologizing because I haven't watched football in so long, and I totally forgot that today was Super Bowl. So we're going to try to get out of here by 8 so those who can go back to the game.
At the halftime, right?
Right.
Yes, halftime.
Okay, if we hear cheering in the background.
And the second half is all that matters anyway, so it's okay.
Exactly.
Very true.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to start with Farrah. So Farrah, can you take us through a little bit of history about Howard and AKA, some of the work of our amazing founders, how they led and influenced and built community, and really established what we call girl power now? Can you do that for us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, I can talk to you greatly about it. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated was not only in the forefront, but it is actually ingrained literally in our DNA. Our Herald founder, Ethel Hedgeman Lyle, her family comes from a huge, like for instance, her grandfather, he ran away from slavery, joined the Union Army, and with that, he and other community leaders and people who were former Union soldiers, they took their bounty and their bonus, and they actually invested it in order to do Lincoln University. Her mother was the first certified educator in St. Louis. Her great grandmother Jane O'Relph, on her other side, she actually was she ran away as well, raised 3 children. Her daughter went on to marry into the Hedgeman family, and it was just people who basically they would take what they had, took everything that they had, and they would invest. And so with that, she came to school, and she understood that it was her obligation that once she earned a certain amount of education, once she was able to obtain it or obtain some sort of freedom with that it was her responsibility to give back. And she's just one of the 16 original founders. All of their family members were freedom fighters in a way. We actually had 2 founders who literally moved to Washington, D.C. so their children could get this education. Some of our founders' parents owned newspapers and fought and were abolitionists previously. And then it just trickled down into Howard. Some of the things that we did, a lot of people think that it was just sort of like something we wanted to do for fun, but it absolutely was not about that at all. It was about sisterhood, and it was also about giving back to our community. And one of the biggest things that you have to remember was this was a time where we were not only establishing as people of color that we needed to establish ourselves as free citizens, but kind of like as humans. So a lot of times people take that for granted, and they say, well, you guys threw these tea parties, and Alpha Kappa Alpha did not throw tea parties before 1913. We threw banquets, okay? And the reason we threw these banquets, and it seems like a small thing, but we really wanted to show the administration and show the show the people of DC that we understood refinement, we understood class, and it wasn't that we were trying to do it their way, but that we were trying to show them that we are worthy of all the things that we are earning. Because at that time, you had whole communities send 1 and 2 children to school. They would send the valedictorian, everyone. So not only did they throw these banquets, but you have to remember, even getting established at as a sorority, this is the first Black sorority. So they had to actually study and research and find ways to present this idea to the administration. And with that, we took traditions such as the Ivy ceremony, which is a pact where you bond the freshmen and the seniors back to the school, that established a giving fund. And we also established the first scholarship for students. With not just that, you have my cousin, Miss Nellie Quander, who is actually, we have the most documented African-American family in the United States. So we always understood the importance of foundation, paperwork, and documenting. And these things led to so many other things. Alpha Kappa Alpha, a lot of people give different sororities or different women credit for the suffrage movement, but many people are unaware that Soror Jane Addams, who became a member in 1913, was actually one of the spearhead leaders for the suffrage movement, the one March 3rd, 1913. And not only was she one of the spearheads for, she was the second vice president. She actually put Miss Paul in place, and it made sure that, of course, with her meetings with our Soror Nellie Quander, made sure that the girls of Howard, which were the only noted girls of color who were allowed, with the exception of different countries like India, who were allowed to march. We were instrumental in working with Jeanette Rankin. Well, Jeanette Rankin didn't become a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, but through our work with our Soror Jane Addams, our Soror Julia Lathrop, our Soror Nellie Quander, from working with that suffrage movement, we were able to get the first woman in Montana elected to the U.S. Senate, the U.S. House of Representatives. Also, you have Crystal Fawcett, where we have her working through in order to get her into her position into administration of that sort. She was the first woman of color. And people just say, okay, well, she's not Soror, but our Soror Eleanor Roosevelt helped give her the platform for that. Soror Eleanor Roosevelt was extremely helpful in people of color causes and making sure that living conditions were better, not only in the military, not only in just everyday life, but many people don't know our Soror Lucy Slowe, who was not only an athlete, not only the first woman of Howard College. She did a lot for women's rights. She also did a lot for their schools named after her, because she's a big leader in education. She worked with her with women's issues kind of behind the scenes to make sure that our issues were being met. This led to Soror Mary Anderson, Soror Bennett being able to sing at the White House, at different theaters. We've always just kind of been behind the scenes. And that sounds like it's far away, but you have to also remember that even before Kamala and before Barack, we had very instrumental roles in the Jesse Jackson campaign, where he was the most successful Black candidate before Barack Obama. We've always been influential in that way. And not just with just pushing individuals. We had programs. We had the first nonpartisan plan, which was we paid for our own lobbyists to lobby on our behalf in the 1930s. And this is before we talked about, the Mississippi Health Project, where we literally, fed and clothed and showed people how to live that type of life. Like, I apologize for going on and on, but I'm so excited.
We can listen to you talk all day long.
I've been a member for 23 years, and it is amazing the number of things that we've been able to accomplish under such restricted ideals and laws. Even we are a remarkable group, and we've had the opportunity to work with remarkable people to really make change happen for everyone. And I'm just so excited. Like, Kamala was a part of the plan, the entire time. People don't know that. People think she kind of like, oh, here she go, but we knew far ahead. because we're forward thinkers, and I don't mean to brag, but if there's anything to brag about, it's that. I mean, she pledged at Howard and came from a multicultural background, like many of our founders did. We were the first Negro sorority to integrate, and not just that. Some of our founders were multiracial, but we were built on the premise of uplifting the Negro race and then servicing all of mankind through sisterhood. And we've been able to accomplish so much. And I'm so excited about all the programs that we have coming forward. Every couple of years, we have a new administration and we have new charges, and we are busy, 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 busy. We're so busy. We're the busiest out of all the Divine Nine sororities and fraternities. And do you know how I know that? Not only because of what we're able to accomplish, not only because this is our third year raising $1 million a day to fund HBCUs, but also we have the most active membership out of all the D9 sororities and fraternities. Like, I'm so proud of us. I'm so proud to be a member.
It's amazing. You mentioned the D9.
Correct.
And everyone here is a member except for Miss Jennifer. But can we talk about the collective role that the Greek community plays in helping those come to the forefront for elections? All of you can chime in when you want to, but we'll start with Denise and talk about how we come together and what we do to make these things happen.
Absolutely. Well, as individual organizations, we set up different platforms, and those platforms happen to be areas where we can help and service mankind, where we see a need, and as all of our sororities and fraternities see that we can fill it or help to fill it or bridge the gap in some way. So what happens is we go out into the communities, we raise funds, we hold rallies and things of that nature in order to assist in those areas. So when we do these things, sometimes it is to promote a special project. Sometimes it is to make sure that certain people in certain area of college and assistance in education, we sometimes have sent dignitaries over to different seats to really assess how we can help in those ways. And the D9 kind of spreads itself out amongst those areas in order to uplift. And that is the main purpose of all of our organizations. And that's how we get in there, get our hands dirty, and kind of uplift from the Roots Project. We kind of exist to prop up and can easily kind of get it and buy into it because we're in their communities. We're working with them. We're not telling them what to do and how to do it.
Right.
We're spending the money and raising the money and providing the book bags and feeding the hungry, as we have since 1908. Actually 07 that we've been doing that. And we've just continued doing that and under the harshest of circumstances, because we understand it is our responsibility of noblesse oblige to give back once we acquire. And that kind of spreads throughout all of our organizations. And so if we're working in your communities and making your communities better and seeing ways to do it, people will easily understand that it's okay and it's safe to understand that if we're doing something, it's okay to follow it or it's okay to get involved, because we kind of work, we do the work it takes to understand that.
And I think also I want to add to that, if I may. One thing that was so powerful in this election, like Denise said, one thing that was so powerful is that the Divine Nine really showed how powerful they could be when you all come together, right? So not only getting people to vote, we all kind of connected with the organization When We All Vote and registered new voters, those that had never voted before. I mean, we went into the communities and we got people to sign up to vote. But we also sent our money in. And it was funny because the Biden-Harris campaign, there was even an article about it, and the people in charge of their fundraisers were saying, why are we getting these increments of $19 and $19.13? What is that all about? And that money came up to millions and millions of dollars because all of us in the Divine Nine sent the amount of money when we were the year we were founded. So 1908, 1906, 1913, 1911. I mean, we all sent that money in to do our part. And that raised millions and millions of dollars. And people took notice, like, why this odd number why is this odd number of dollars coming in? And it was the power of the divine nine. So it showed you how powerful we can be when we work together and we put our minds together to say, this is what we want to do. And look what happened. And I think that's a great story to tell.
It's beautiful, beautiful story. Ron, what about so Ron is a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. You want to speak about what you all did?
Absolutely, absolutely. Good evening. Ron Jones, a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, Beta chapter. We actually just celebrated 107 years. So just wanted to make sure.
Lincoln University.
Absolutely. I think everyone really touched on really the collaborative efforts, the joint efforts amongst the Divine Nine. One thing that I want to add to and just really point out in terms of really what this generated, one of the things here in Pittsburgh is that the Divine Nine really had days that we really incorporated into the mail-in ballot campaign. So we all had certain days that were designated to where we really just represented our organizations on respective days. But one thing that really stood out during those moments was it really displayed diversity. So it really brought together and brought out individuals of all races and ethnicities, really about a common cause. And it really wasn't about discussing what political affiliation you're about. It's really just about doing and exercising your rights. And that was very important to us. And that's what we were really at the forefront, really getting our hands and feet dirty in terms of this time, because it was very important.
Roz, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Divine Nine. I love everything that we stand for. And, people think that we have like these issues with each other. We do not. We really are organizations that really work together. We are organizations that come together for the greater good, And I think it actually went viral. I think I saw it first on The View, where all the members of the different sororities, we all had our stroll into the polls T-shirts on. And I think that, for us, that's so normal for us. But people who are not members were just like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. But we all work together. We all have a common goal of serving our community. And we do what it is that's necessary to get out and get the work done, and so I love that about the Divine Nine. There really isn't like all this hate that people may think that there is. A lot of it is just in jest. It really is just in jest. I mean, but when we come together, we work well together because we all understand the common goal, and it could not have been illustrated any more than what happened with this election.
Yes.
And if I can piggyback off what she's saying, my personal friend who actually introduced me into the Order of Eastern Star. I was at her, the woman who came up with Stroll to the Poll movement. I was actually at her initiation for her. And it has been a dream of hers to become a member. And when she came in, she took off like a rocket. I mean, and not only Stroll to the Poll movement, we were actually featured in the Biden-Harris campaign the packages that they send out. So I'm getting this, my family's getting to see me like on nationals. I'm like, and I'm struggling. And then just to kind of speak on the diversity piece that Ryan was saying, we got contacted by so many different Indian sororities and fraternities that she was able to bridge, and her name is Sora Maisha Lamb, by the way. And she was able to contact them, and they were making Stroll to the Poll videos. And it was like, we were all kind of like, okay, you do it like this, because they were discussing how they used to be less than 1% of the vote, and that the voter turnout in the Indian population really increased because they got into the communities and were enforcing. They were like, this is important. This is important for our community. They could then see themselves in our Sarah Kamala Harris. And it blew up even more. The men got involved. They had I think it was Stroll to the, but they were kind of, taking it cool, but it was so thrilling. It was like, yes, they're like, we're right behind you. We were like, yay! It was great. It was great.
Jennifer, what was your experience with this election and the voter turnout? Let me just say that it really burns me up when I hear, that the election was rigged and all these people, considering all of the work that we did to get people out and register to vote and to the voting polls. Like, you cannot just easily just discredit the work that we've done in the communities.
No.
It's just not fair. Jennifer?
You can't. And so I grew up in South Central Pennsylvania, a very rural area. But when I was in my teens, our family moved overseas. And so I have friends from all over God's creation. I stay in touch with them on Facebook and on Instagram and social media in general. And I have to tell you, as elated as you are with the teamwork that went on, I was so disappointed and almost wanting to shut down those accounts for all the negativity. And I don't what call it fake news, call it what you want. But the conspiracy theories and outright lies that were being promulgated, and the belief that the folks have in this message, in this news, is so unshakable that logic, science, fact, it doesn't matter. It's like death. They're deaf to it. So while I was thrilled with the outcome, obviously, and thrilled with the grassroots organizations and the get out the vote, I was really disappointed with the way some of our more rural areas of the nation were reacting to everything.
Yeah, it is disappointing.
Can I just speak to that?
Yes, absolutely.
The whole Marjorie Greene, she represents my hometown in Rome, Georgia. And when I tell you, like, the levels of embarrassment for my hometown, it's just been ridiculous. I've had friends like text me like, yeah, like, you need to move home and run for office. And I'm like, I haven't lived in Rome, Georgia since 1996. Like, nobody will vote for me. But for a split second, I was like, I need to go home because this is crazy. And you're right, the logic that is being believed by some of these individuals, it is just, it's unheard of. It's unheard of. Blame it on the pandemic, blame it on us being stuck in the house, but blame it on cult culture. But the reality is that there are professionals who are out here believing,
Preaching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
seeing it in churches as well.
Yeah.
Gets I can't abide it. The culture of hate and animosity between people. We are professional enough, compassionate enough to have conversations about our differences.
Right.
But when the hate comes to the forefront and it's allowed, no, it's not allowed, it's espoused, speaks to a shift in our culture that we just can't let continue.
But you know what, you all, we had a shift in our culture with the last administration. That's when we really saw the shift happen, right? And it's left this lasting, lingering, just like dark cloud over this country. Awful. And it's going to take, I think this new administration has to clean up all of that, right? And start to move that hate and bigotry and racism out of the way so they can then do their job. But I think this last administration almost validated it.
Yeah.
Right. So
did I hear you say that you think it started before that?
No. I think it started with the last administration. Yes.
And that's what I was alluding to without
right. Almost like this last administration gave them permission to come out and show their, the divisiveness, their bigotry. I mean, it was okay for this last administration. And
so I know I'm not the panel chair, but do you think that this divisiveness has always been there, and it's just under the cover, and it only came out because the last administration allowed it to. Well, then how do we
absolutely.
How do we get rid of the I don't know.
So here's the truth. I'm originally from Georgia, so I understand, you know, like it's not a misnomer to know where you're not accepted, unfortunately. So we, as people of color, we've always known. Like it hasn't been a secret to us. But I think this administration let the world know that race relations are in dire straits here in America. And unfortunately, when he said after Charlottesville, when the young lady was killed, and he's like, it's 5 people, he didn't admonish
people on both sides.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It opened the door to, well, if he's okay with it, then we can be okay with it. Because guess he's been getting away with stuff, we'll get away with stuff.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think too, you know, social media and the platforms, things go viral so quickly.
Yes.
We get to see it in the forefront now, where before it was more, you know, undercover in your neighborhoods. It wasn't blasted all over social media within 5 minutes of something occurring. So I think that happened too. But speaking of like leadership and us moving into a new direction, Evelyn, you've been a leader for a very long time. You lead on an international platform. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of the message that the voters of the United States kind of sent across the world by, I think, one, electing Biden, but two, electing, I don't want to say allowing, but, you know, Biden chose Kamala as his vice president,
right,
and people still voted for him. And I think that sent a huge message on a global platform. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think that was one of the smartest decisions President Biden could have made. I really think it was smart, and I know that he had quite a few he was considering, some of color, some not. But you know, with Vice President Harris, I mean, she just represents so much. I mean, a strong woman, a smart woman, a woman of color. Just a woman who has accomplished a lot in her career. She's had a lot of firsts, you know. So I think that really helped a lot of people, even with him, because, you know, I've always been a big fan of President Biden's. I mean, I'm in Pennsylvania. He's right next door in Delaware. So I've always been a fan. He's not perfect. He's made some mistakes along the way, and some that I have loudly spoke up about. But you know, we all have made mistakes. We all have seen over time, you know, how we've changed our ways and behavior and attitudes in different ways through our career or our personal life. But I think to pick her represented so much of what this world represents, right? I mean, women are just, you know, first of all, women have been the backbone of the Democratic Party forever. We have been the ones pushing it out there, raising money, you know, strengthening the operations and the processes behind the scenes. So now it was time for us to step out front and to be out there. So I think that was, you know, way past time. And I think that was good on his part. But she represents so much as far as, you know, the immigrant population, African Americans, you know, our Indian Americans, our you know, Jamaican Americans. I mean, you know, it's just like a melting pot with her that she represents. And plus she's just smart as hell too. So let's just leave it there. Yeah. And, you know, and it's funny that, you know, it's funny because I did not go to an HBCU. My husband did, my father did. But people, you know, used to say all the time, you know, especially with my daughter, who's an 11th grader now, about to go to college, and other very young, smart people I know of color going off to college. Well, you know, you're so smart, you have so much to offer. Why would you settle for an HBCU? And now people see Howard University, you know, Spelman, you know, when people say why HBCU, I can now say Kamala Harris. I can now say Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. I can now say Stacey Abrams. I can now say Senator Raphael Warnock, all who went to HBCUs, you know, and plus you can be personal. I can say my husband, my father, you know, so why not? I mean, these are some of the greatest universities in this country. And now they see the products of HBCU. Dr. Roz is a product of an HBCU, you know, so
yep,
why
I am.
not?
Ron is, yep.
So why
is
not
Denise.
You know, so now people are like, well, how do I get into an HBCU?
Yes.
So, you know, I think on both an international level and a local level, Vice President Harris just represents the good and the greatness and all this country has to offer. All women have to offer, not just Black women, women, period. Just the greatness that we all have. And I'm just proud of the fact she's in there. I'm proud of the president for making probably the best decision he'll ever make in his life, besides marrying his wife. But that's the best decision. And she just represents, I mean, so much. You know, she was raised by a single mother and you know, had some odds stacked against her, but still succeeded in spite of all of that. And she's a woman of Alpha Kappa Alpha, so that's just the cherry on top of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. I took some time to look up other women leaders across the world, and I knew there were some. I didn't realize that there are 23 other women who are either the president or prime ministers of their country. And I was like, wow, this is really a huge message that she and Biden have sent to the world. Like, women can lead. We are great leaders. And I remember during the pandemic reading that all the countries that were led by women, their rates, their COVID rates were the lowest, and they were doing really well in these countries. And I was just like, wow, women, you know, we're rocking it all over the world.
Well, Evelyn talked about Kamala being full of firsts. Well, her resume reads like a list of firsts. First Black district attorney of California, first Black and South Asian American attorney general in California, and the first South Asian American woman and second Black woman in Congress.
That's right.
U.S. Senate, sorry, in history. It's just like, is there nothing the woman can't do? I mean, she's admiration falls short of what I feel for her.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, you brought up a good question. Evelyn, from a global leadership standpoint, we were just talking about, we're going to call it what it is, racist in America. What do you think her and Biden as a global leader, what do you think they need to do to kind of move that spectrum the other way, where there's more equality, more acceptance of people of color and women in leadership roles and really just existing in America?
Yeah, I think they need to just show the world, the nation, not just the U.S., the nation, how effective they can be as a team. You know, how effective. I mean, you know, President Biden, he's got a lot of experience in politics, right? He's been in this game a long time. She doesn't have as much experience, but she compliments him so much on so many of the areas that he's a little weak in, I think. And I think the two of them working together as a team, I think will show this world how great they can be. And we're bringing in this woman, this smart Black woman into the equation with him and all of his experience and how great they're going to do together. We'll just show them, the world, that the women are ready, and especially people of color are ready. I mean, I think President Obama showed us that people of color are ready, but her being a woman, women are ready, and then women of color are ready. So just be successful. And I think they have a great start. You know, this pandemic and the way he's turning things around, getting stimulus checks out, getting vaccines in people's arms, moving it along quickly. I think they're doing a good job in the first, 3 weeks?
Yeah. It's almost surreal. You know, you turn on the news now, and you know, everything is calm and peaceful, and it makes sense. And you're like, whoo, what a dream. So Jennifer, I want to turn to you. So I think that Jennifer is an amazing leader.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you.
I fell in love with you the first time that, you know, we met. I was like, I love this woman. She is so amazing. And I used to work for Jennifer when I worked at DISA. So this is how we know each other. And I really wanted to bring her today, really to talk about, so in the military arena and Department of Defense, what do you think that Kamala's being the vice president, the impact or influence, positive or negative, may have when we talk about changing race relations at home and at work and in the office?
So the first and foremost, I think it will have an immediate positive impact, and it already has, in the rollback of the Executive Order 13950. Mm-hmm. The previous administration had issued the diversity training ban that restricted federal government and its contractors and civilians from certain curriculums that examined systematic racism, white privilege, and other race and gender bias issues. Basically, he was targeting his target was the critical race theory, which teaches that racism pervades government and other American institutions, giving those who are white an advantage. I have to tell you, and I hope this is non-attribution, but I completely ignored the order. Training. There's nothing that was in the training that circumvented or that conflicted with what is codified in law. So I didn't feel the need to change what we were doing. But what, even before President Biden and Vice President Harris were in office, when we were having the riots and the Black Lives Matter movement swept the nation, it offered a means by which that we could have a conversation, a dialogue. It was a way to open up, share, and to perhaps understand things that we hadn't before. So Renee will probably tell you that, well, at least I consider myself probably colorblind, gender blind. I am I love everyone. I'm a big softie. But don't mistake my kindness and caring for weakness, right? But I'm gonna lay this out here and lay this bare. My husband is a wounded warrior, and as I had told you before we went on air, is celebrating his 8th spinal surgery from his line of duty injury that he sustained in Iraq. So when we entered the conflict, or the I don't know exactly what you would call it, the time of kneeling with the national anthem, football games. I will be honest, I thought it was disrespectful. I didn't understand it. And it wasn't until we were having these open and honest discussions with my team, my entire team, whoever wanted to come and discuss it, that I got it. And it was very emotional for me, and apparently for them too. But I think that having a Black and Indian vice president ascend to this vice presidency of, an Indian and Black woman ascend to the vice presidency offers us the ability to see and view in action grace, intelligence, brilliance, and to have these kind of conversations, honest dialogue amongst our coworkers, amongst our families, with our friends. And I think it will help us toward that healing, toward the repairs that we need to make as a nation.
You know, you did exactly what, and I've preached this a million times, you did exactly what Michelle Obama said that she and Barack did to help to go into the communities. They sat down with people that didn't look like them and had honest conversations about things that mattered. And we always learn that we are more alike than we are different.
Mm-hmm.
We may have a few different viewpoints about things, but it doesn't mean that we cannot all get along and exist in the same world.
Yes, yes.
So, Jennifer, with your experience, do you think that, especially with sharing this conversation, I wasn't there for that, but do you think that it will change the way that you lead to ensure that there's, and I believe that you always ensure that there's equality and fairness across the board, but do you think that you'll do anything different now that she's in office, as well as having a better understanding of why Colin Kaepernick was kneeling?
So for me, I've always led that actions have consequences, and to lead by example. And I hope that through my honesty and transparency, I can create a culture of trust that future leaders will be able to emulate. And I feel that this is as a direct result of Kamala Harris being in the White House. All of this has allowed greater dialogue, has allowed us to examine our inherent biases, and will help us to overcome them. I don't think I will necessarily, me myself, lead in a different way. As you've intoned, I am fiercely protective of the people that I work with. You probably know this.
Yes.
Fiercely proud of them, and want them to be the best that they could possibly be, the best versions of themselves that they could be. So I think her service will only serve to bolster that in me.
Yeah, I agree. So Ron, I want to come to you because you've been quiet. So as a Black male, educator, father of 4, member of the Greek community, what does Kamala Harris represent to you, as well as your thoughts and feelings about how you may influence, how you educate the youth moving forward? And then can we later talk about maybe some programs or mentorships and things that may change in the future?
Absolutely. Thanks for that question. It's very important. One, me representing, a Black male in education. It's very important that our youth in general really understand what is being represented right now with Kamala Harris being in office. One of the things that we have to have, and I'm actually going to go back a little bit in terms of just presentation from my aspect. If I don't take this position at home, I'm not going to be able to take the position as a leader in the school district. So I'm a father of 4. I'm a father of 4 girls. So 3 are young ladies right now. So it's very important that they see, and I've been blessed that they were able to see a strong female in my mother, who is here in spirit right now. But they were able to see her strength. They were able to see her leadership. So for them to see that, and now I can see the spirit of what they're living, how they're acting, how they're growing, and now to see the change that's happening right now is something that's big for them, because I want them to understand that it's possible. When we have this conversation, a lot of times this courageous conversation can always go left sometimes. It can get negative. It can go to what we don't have, but what we really need to focus on. And I'll switch over to my professional side, is that we need to focus on what we do have. And what we do have is Ms. Harris in the office right now. We need to understand that we have to build off of that. You have to understand that it is possible. So the conversations that I have, and we have professional development in my school in terms of having these courageous conversations. What does this look like for our youth? We're not going to dumb me down. I know we're in a pandemic and we have hybrid sessions and we're in a virtual space, but we have to make sure that we are uplifting our youth. So that's what's important to me in terms of being an educator and making sure that we have these conversations of strength with our youth, having these conversations of what is happening. We can't live in the past, but we have to really focus on, I want you to see what has actually happened. Change is happening. We know the negativity that had happened in these past 4 years, but we also have to understand the positivity that is happening and look at what is before you. So in our professional developments, we make sure that we actually get our teachers, we have breakout sessions, and we just get them to really build out how they're feeling. One of the things that you always have to unpack is biases, and we all have biases. We all have that, but we have to understand how can we utilize that bias to really perform and do what we need to do as educators. If you're not able to do that, then you're in the wrong field. You're in the wrong field. And it's not about changing your belief or your thought system, but it's about really your purpose in this field that we are as educators. So that's a big piece in terms of us as educators. I'm not just going to say me, I'm going to say us as educators, and it's huge in terms of what we really build our staff to do. Some of the projects that we actually are working on, one that I actually started last year, is really just having, for our females in particular, is really showing them that they can make it. So it was important to me to really put before them some positive and strong females each week. Like every other Tuesday, we had a program that we actually met with these young ladies. It was about 15 young ladies where they came in. Actually, it was different topics, whether it was being strong, professionalism in media. It was just different topics that we really built on to really grow our young ladies to really understand that you can do it. This is how you represent yourself as a young lady. This is a area where whatever you want to do, you can do it, and we're going to grow you no matter what your background is. Okay, we're not going to use those things as a crutch. Okay, because I can give you a story of where my background is, but we can't use that as a crutch. So in terms of programs, that's one that we did. Another is just building them as leaders. We have what's called Crew in our building, where that's an opportunity for some social and emotional learning for our youngsters. So that's a time to really build off of growth aspects, talk to them about really leadership opportunities, put them in leadership opportunities. Student council, make sure that we have those kind of things so that they can represent as leaders. Sometimes it's your students that are on the bubble. A lot of times it can be your leaders. It's transitioning them that negative leadership into positive leadership. Sometimes individuals don't understand why I seem to always flock to the students that may be a little challenging sometimes, just because those are the ones that I believe in, and I know that I can develop the relationships and really grow their strength. And that's a lot of times, that's all they need, because sometimes all they get is that negative response. They get that negative feedback instead of not really getting the recognition for the positivity. So those are just some aspects of some things that I work on as an educator and will continue to work on within my school district and with our youth, because it's going to be very important. And we're not there yet. I'm not saying I have a perfect perfect solution to how to handle this, but we're building, we're growing, and we're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep pushing the envelope until all of our youth know, all of our young ladies know that they're somebody. Things are growing and they can do it. So that's where we are, and that's where I am right now as an educator.
Do you think that the school systems will begin to provide more kind of diversity and inclusion training and giving children of color what they need, especially in schools where most of the teachers are Caucasian? Have you heard any talks of that happening?
So one of the things that I will say Propel School District actually does, and we're actually separate from Pittsburgh Public School District. We're actually a charter school. But Pittsburgh Public is doing some of those same things as well. But they have opened up a diversity and inclusion position where there's somebody responsible for those things. We actually just had a platform last week on discussing those things, really unpacking, where do we go from here as a staff? It was mandatory for all, was not optional. So what I will give credit to our district for is they are opening up that space for the conversation. What I will point out, and I think it's happening across a lot of other districts, one of the things I just want to say is that it's very important that this is just not a checkoff box for systems that are doing this. The work has to be purposeful. The work has to be strategic. It can't be a situation where you're just saying, okay, I know that we're in this space right now, and we have to show that we're presenting diversity and inclusion in our space or within our organization. And now our hands are, and we can check that off and say that we did it. It's going to be very important. And I know it's important for me to make sure that I continue to just tap on it and be at the forefront and making sure that it continues and doesn't go by the wayside.
Can I jump in? Ron, can I jump into that?
Sure.
So outside my life outside of Alpha Kappa Alpha, so I work for the School District of Philadelphia. And
Okay.
we have kicked off since everything happened in the wake of the George Floyd killing and the protests and everything in this country, we kicked off an equity coalition in the School District of Philadelphia. Because we have, of course, 82% of our students are of color, and then 72% of our teachers are white teachers. So yes, we had some disparities there. Our magnet schools, the enrollment was way off. I think to add to what you said, Ron, is this work has to be intentional. Because we have gone far too long with it being the old boys network kind of work.
Right.
Now our children, our children are so diverse. Our parents, our families are so diverse, and we have to be intentional about making sure that there's equity and inclusion in our schools. And like your district, Ron, which I'm very proud of, the Philadelphia School District, is we've not only kicked off this equity coalition, but we've hired an equity and inclusion person, D&I person, to actually make sure this work is carried through. And as our school district is the fourth largest school district in the country, we are just now doing this in 2021, which is disgraceful within itself. However, I'm glad we're finally doing it.
It's happening.
It took something like what happened with George Floyd in order for this world to realize that we all need to look at our equity and our inclusion and find out if we're doing it the right way. And 99% of our corporations, our district, are not. So now is the time. So thank you, Ron, for bringing that up, because that work is so important in public education.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you for chiming in. I was actually going to ask you next what you thought. But I do have a question. I read something, it might have been this morning, about the state of Utah allowing parents to opt out of the children participating in Black History Month. Have you all also, I see some heads shaking, yes? What are you all's thoughts on that? I can tell you mine. I'll tell you mine real quick.
I mean, really?
Yeah. It's absolutely, I think now is the time that all history books need to be rewritten. Children should be learning all history. I think the whitewash history that they've been learning, it all needs to be burned, and we need to start over, and new books need to come into the classrooms, and there should be no opting out of history. I just couldn't even believe that a whole state would allow that.
Well, it says something particularly about that state, that you are trying to diminish who we are as people. To not even share our stories. And so what does that say about the educational system in that state? And then when you take it a little further, what does that say about those children? What does that say about the children that are in that public education? So it's perpetuating this Caucasian has never done anything to Black people.
The whole thing, all lives matter. The whole response.
No, you're right. It's like, there's no problem with Black people haven't had it hard, or people of color haven't had it hard. All of our lives matter. If all of our lives matter, we wouldn't have to have the particular signage of saying that Black lives matter. Because at the end of the day, if all of our lives matter,
Right.
then my black life, my husband's black
Would
life,
matter.
my
Right.
mother, all the
Right.
black lives right here with us today, all of our lives would matter. But
Yeah.
when my husband leaves to go to work, when I say be careful, it's not like, oh, be careful because it's a bad day. No, I'm saying be careful because I know in about 5 minutes into his commute, the cops kind of hang out in a little area because they're looking for people to speak. So for me, even though his tags are great, even though everything is credible, and even though he's probably not going to speak, that be careful is very different because I'm like, be careful, make it home
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
Don't give them a
and
reason to pull you over.
Right.
And the idea that we have to have kind of conversations is problematic.
the Capitol riots, the
So I'm sorry,
aftermath of
Renee. I got a little passionate. I'm sorry.
oh no, and the treatment of the folks that stormed the Capitol just shows it lays bare the fact that there are two separate systems of justice
Yes.
in our country.
Yes.
You don't have to be particularly bright to see it.
That was very evident.
The world saw it. The world saw it.
The world saw it. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
But you still have
the
people
guys.
who
No, I was
still
gonna
have
say one
people
of the
who have
guys
been
requested.
elected.
Yeah.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sorry, Renee.
No, it's
No, I'm
okay.
saying, but
No, you're fine.
have,
You're fine.
you still
One
have
of the guys
people
is he
in
requested
office.
to be transferred to a prison so that he could have organic food. He
Yeah.
went on a 9-day strike,
Because
and
of
they are
common
actually
belief.
transferring him.
Yes.
But it's worse than that. You still have these Republicans who their lives were in jeopardy on that day. Their life was in jeopardy on that day. And they still are making all types of excuses for not calling this what it is. It was
Absolutely.
domestic terrorism. Say what it is. Because if it was a bunch of us, if it was a bunch of black people storming, first of all, we wouldn't even made it that far.
No, we wouldn't.
My 13-year-old and 16-year-old said the same thing. That the composition of the crowd had been other than white people, then it would have had a completely different outcome. Even they can see it.
Yes, even they could see it. Right.
Yep.
So
We would still be burying bodies and having funerals.
Right.
It would be the Capitol massacre. That's what it would be.
Yes, absolutely.
That's exactly what it would be.
Roz. You're right.
So speaking of Roz, go ahead, Denise, and then I'll go to Roz.
Yeah, I know it moved to the Capitol, but when you were saying about education and what they said in Utah, what spoke to me was because I also teach and I teach marketing. And so one thing that we do in my classrooms, I kind of we have to strip down the beliefs about ourselves. Because I let people know that the best way to market to you is to get you to feel bad about yourself so we can get you to pay to change it. When in fact, nothing's wrong with you and you're perfect in every single way. So and I teach them all about some of the buzzwords I say are like, if I tell you not to say orange, if I tell you not to think about orange, what do you do? And they're like, I'm like, it's that easy. Like we really study you so that we can sell these ideas to you because in truth, we're all human. And so it's a lot of propaganda that is forced upon us in America. And when I read in Utah that they weren't teaching the curriculum, the first thing I thought is because you don't want us to know how valuable we were and are.
Yes.
Part of when, I too was kind of like, what do you mean we can't teach from the 1619 project? What do you mean? Because that is a big part of explaining to my students that you've always been valuable. It wasn't, people just think that African Americans, people get mad about cotton, but I'm like, how do you think the rest of America got built? Do you think these stones here were just made by leprechauns? No. Do you think these buildings were made by leprechauns? Like we also grew oranges. So if you're gonna be mad at cotton, be mad at oranges, be mad at buildings. And I was like, it's not even just the work. You could not even get with slaves, they bought slaves not just because their work was valuable, not just because what they produced was valuable, but also they mortgaged their farms based off how many slaves they had. We were literally capital, because land was stolen anyway. So it's
right.
They stole it anyway and they gave it out in lotteries. I think that's the biggest fear in Utah, that they'll be concerned about. People will say, well, what did we do and what did we contribute? And I don't know if they're comfortable with what was the contribution. And that's why I think
Yes.
Yep.
Renee, we need to open gold grinders up to the babies in Utah.
Right, exactly.
We need to actively, now that we are virtual, we need to actively recruit so we can show our babies that they are worthy.
Right.
So I want to, this is a good segue. Thank you, Denise. For Dr. Roz, can you quickly talk about, we have a couple of minutes left. I want to try to premiere a video from our Gold Grinder girls real quick. Hopefully I'll be able to share it, but we finally got it done. I showed Denise, was it this morning or yesterday? I can't remember, but anyway. Can you quickly talk about the psychological impact of Kamala being in office when people see her?
Absolutely. I mean, representation matters. If you can't see yourself being something, then you can never dream or aspire to be that. And so being able to see her in the White House, being able to see her not on Instagram doing all the other things that we see people are doing to get fame, but using her intellect, graduating from an HBCU, tearing down walls, breaking ceilings in her state to even make it to, the White House. Absolutely, representation matters. And what it does for you is when you can see someone who had a dream, who may not have had the best background, from a single parent home, and if that's your background, then you can say, in spite of, I can still do this. I can still be this. And so I think having her in the White House was but let me tell you, sorry, Evelyn, you were very nice about President Biden, but he was brilliant to put her in the White House, because here's the truth. Had he not done that, he would have lost the allegiance of all these Black women in America, because we were tired. We were tired of doing
the election too.
And lost the election.
Oh, yes.
We were tired. We were tired of doing the work. But to see her propelled to such levels, I don't know why I'm in my preaching spirit tonight. I'm sorry. I think the Utah thing got me. I'm like, Roz, calm down. I'm sorry. But to see her to aspire to such levels, for me, that day, it was historical for me. I literally cried from 10 to probably 4 o'clock that day, because I was like, what more can I do in my life? What more levels can I reach? Who else can I help? Where can I go? What can I do? If she can do that,
Dr.
what can I do?
My daughter, she said, Mom, she grew up with strong women, right? My mom's a biochemist. My grandmother in the 20s went to Duke. And when my grandfather went off to war, she took his job while he went off to war. Wow. Now, when he came back, what did she have to do? Go back to being a homemaker. Mm-hmm. But my daughter said, Mom, you've always told us that there's nothing we can't do. And we know that. Mm-hmm. But we have to prove ourselves as equal to men.
All the time.
Kamala Harris, and she's 16 now. She says, with Kamala Harris as my VP, Mom, I'm one step closer to not having to consistently prove that I'm capable when I strive for excellence.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it.
I love it. And you know what, Jennifer? You know what? As people of color, we have to prove ourselves against men, and we have to prove ourselves against other races. Yep. So, growing up, we've always heard you have to be twice as good. Yep. The amount of pressure of what that says is that you're not worthy just as who you are. Right. You're not worthy. You have to excel to a level that is twice better than everyone else. And unfortunately, that level of stress, everybody doesn't have that capacity to do so. And so it brings about, for your baby to say that at 16, think about our babies hearing that at 2, 3, 4, 5. They have to be at perfection just to even be noticed. And so having Kamala in the White House has been the best representation that we could ever have as women of color. The best thing that could ever happen for us, because it does say, my mother told me I could be anything I wanted to be too. Right. But if I didn't see it, how was I really supposed to believe it?
Now I believe it. Now I believe it.
Now I believe it. Now I'm like, I can look at her past, see what she did, and maybe I can achieve the same goals. So now she's given us kind of like this guide to reach the highest pinnacle.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Absolutely. The other pressure that sometimes we as people of color also experience is, and somebody was fussing about this the other day to me, that there was a position that she applied for that she was really excited about, but they told her, you're too qualified. So we work and work and work to get, our experiences and our education to this level, and then to be told you're too qualified, like that's also hurtful on that spectrum.
Absolutely. Or to even still be diminished. I have been in the room where I may have the highest degree and someone may say, hey, Roz, not even Mrs., not doctor, any of that. And they can speak to everyone else and put, something in front of their name, Mrs. this, Mrs. that. And I'm like, seriously, I'm the expert here in the room, but I don't get the same respect. I don't get the same respect.
With Dr. Biden. Remember, they said, called the first lady. Isn't that a good enough thing? And I don't. That gets me so riled up. You earned your degrees.
Yeah.
Blood, sweat, and tears. Respect that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard someone said, well, she's not a medical doctor. I'm like, she earned a doctorate degree. You're going to call her Dr. Biden.
Right.
But I had
because
another
if she were a man, they'd call her.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. Another friend of mine said that, she recently got her doctorate, and in meetings, they call all the men doctor, but they still wanted to call her by her first name. And she said, I was like, no, you are also going to call me doctor if I have earned this degree.
Yes. Oh, I stopped responding. That happens to me all the time. I stopped responding. They're like Roz, and they could be right in my face, but I won't respond. Can you put doctor in front of that? Because if you're going to do it for everybody else, you can do it for me too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we did have a question. If a struggling school system doesn't know where to begin for such a strategic approach to equity, would you be willing to share your playbook with them? I know several that need the help. So I think that was probably to Evelyn and Ron.
Mm-hmm. I would absolutely willing to share. We have,
DJ was
a lot of different.
She was with us last week.
Okay.
And she's a teacher. So she has a phenomenal story. If you get a chance, go watch my live from last week. It was amazing. We had a phenomenal conversation. All right, so I am going to try to share this video. This is my first time.
Oh, wait a minute, Renee, you may have to remove the comment so we can see it on the full screen.
Oh, okay. All right, let me go and remove the comment. There we go.
Awesome.
Okay. So share, it's giving me an option to share my screen or video file. I think the video file is new. I'm going to try to share, let's see, screen sharing.
Oh, I hope you can share it.
I know, me too. Let's see, application, here we go. I think I can share it. All right. Let me hit play. Why is it, this little thing is in front of my play button? Oh, here we go. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Sinai Pear, and I am a girl grinder. I would just like to give thanks to our new Vice President, Kamala Harris. Thank you so much, Kamala Harris. To me, having you as my Vice President makes me feel like I could do anything that I set my mind to. You are a big inspiration and a big help to me, and a big help to all the other little kids in the world. Thank you so much for being my Vice President. I hope that you can do great things for the world and the community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janaya. I'm a Gold Grinders ambassador. Kamala Harris has impacted my life because she is the first female vice president. It makes me feel like I can be anything that I want to be.
Hi, my name is Jadisol Magiwa, and I am a Gold Grinders. Mrs. Kamala Harris is so inspiring, seeing that she's overcome so many challenges as an African American woman. I know that I have a brighter future and I can accomplish my dreams, such as coding, teaching, designing, and much, much more. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being such a great role model. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Roberts. I'm 13 years old, and I'm a Gold Grinder. I find it super inspiring that Kamala Harris is our first woman vice president. She is a super inspiring figure to me because she teaches me that women have a lot of power, and we can use that power. And she's just a super inspiring figure to me. So thank you, Kamala Harris. Bye.
My name is Daria, and I am very proud and enthusiastic that you are our new Vice President. You are not only our first woman, first African American, first South Asian Vice President, you inspire me because you are a person and not just a politician. You are sagacious, intelligent, kind, considerate, respectful, altruistic, and imaginative. And that's what makes me overjoyed that you are our new Vice President.
Hi, I'm Corey Huntington from Gold Grinders, and I'm very proud of Miss Kamala Harris for being the new Vice President of America. And I was very glad that she's in the colored. And I'm very happy about that we finally get to have justice about it. And not just because she's just a woman and she's also colored. It's just a big deal to me because she's a very big influence. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Diana from Gold Grinders, and what it means to me for having you Kamala Harris as this Black and African American president, it means to me that since you followed your goal, we can follow ours too, and we can do our best to achieve our goals. And we want to thank you for being our president today and what you're going to be achieving for us this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamala Harris, for being one of my biggest inspirations and one of my role models. By you being vice president, first woman of color vice president, you have shown other girls my age that it is possible to achieve our dreams. I wish you good luck in the vice president office, and I hope and strive to be more like you every day.
Oh, wow, that was great.
Those are our babies.
Oh, great. So great.
Yes, those are the babies that we mentor. We love them so much. We were talking about how some of them mispronounced her name. And one of our other board members was like, well, maybe we can get them to change it. We were like, it's like pulling teeth to get them to talk. You would have thought I asked them to carry 100 pounds walking to California.
Oh my God.
But that was how they genuinely felt. And so it's just, to capture their authentic moments of really thinking about it, because we've been talking about, and to get back to your point of representation, we've been talking about it with our girls and what does this mean and what goals do you have? And many don't know that most of our girls are really at-risk young ladies. And so to see them, to be able to imagine and see themselves very differently is just, I don't know. It's just amazing.
Everything that we do worth it, at least for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Well, I just want to say thank you, everyone. Are there any final words before we close out? I really appreciate you coming on today. I was so excited about this conversation because I just felt like it was so needed. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate everyone. And we can go back and enjoy the Super Bowl now. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.